Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into a powerful and emotional case that highlights the relentless quest for justice and the enduring legacy of two young lives lost. Stay tuned as we uncover the story of Lauria and Ashley and the fight for their memory.
I had dreams of it being her wedding day, and I was standing at the front of the church watching her walk down the aisle. And when her dad lifted her veil, she had no face.
It started with a house fire, and then it was a murder, and then it was two girls abducted.
You look over and you see there's something up there on that floor. You could instantly tell it was a body of a man.
As far as anybody's saying, there are no suspects. But the family feel that there is one really important suspect, and that is the entire Craig County Sheriff's Department.
As rumors about the two teenagers multiplied, a conspiracy involving the police, local drug rings, and the Mexican cartel came to light. Left to their own devices, the Bible family resolved to find the missing girls and hold those responsible for their disappearance accountable.
He said, "Was you not scared to talk to me?" And I said, "Nope. I'm a mom and I want to find my child, and I will do whatever it takes to find her."
When they were young, Ashley's family, the Freemans, lived just a mile from Lauria and the Bibles. The two girls met in kindergarten and quickly formed a close friendship that grew stronger over the years.
They made that bond, and it continued in high school.
Lauria was the cheerleader for Ashley's basketball team, and they were totally inseparable now.
What one was thinking, the other was thinking. It's kind of like when two people, one can finish a sentence when the other one starts one.
On December 29th, just days after Christmas, Ashley asked Lauria to come over for her 16th birthday, and her dad, Jay, couldn't say no.
Seen them pull up in the driveway, and she comes running in the house and asked if she could spend the night with Ashley. I said, "You need to be home by noon." Her last word was, "I love you, Daddy," and out the door they went. I didn't think nothing of it.
Lauria and Ashley had an awesome night at the Freemans, munching on pizza and ice cream while watching movies. Everything seemed perfect until someone outside was watching. The next morning at 6 a.m., the neighbors called the police. The Freemans' house was on fire.
My neighbor's house across the street is completely engulfed.
Okay.
In flames.
Okay. What's the address?
2 hours later, a deputy from the Craig County Sheriff's Department stormed into Laura's mom's workplace.
His first words were, "Do you know Ashley Freeman?" I said, "Yes, she's my daughter's best friend. In fact, Lauria stayed last night with the Freemans." He said, "Lorraine, the house is totally gone."
The Ring and Jay hurried to the scene where the county sheriff told them the girls were missing.
We just want to know where the girls are. You know, it doesn't matter who or what. It's just where can we find them?
Lorraine teamed up with the medical examiner to identify the body of Kathy Freeman, Ashley's mom, found in the rubble.
When I saw the county coroner when she come over, I said, "Is that Kathy?" And she said, "I can't tell you 100%, but I know that the woman has a ring on her left hand and she has 4 children." I said, "That's Kathy." So where are Danny? Where are the 2 girls?
While this was going on, Laura's dad was searching the area on horseback and came across empty shotgun shells near the property. It looked like this wasn't just a fire. Ashley's mom had been murdered.
You know, we call in the OSBIs, they go over and look, collect it for evidence.
The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation, OSBI, had full control over the case, and their lead investigator, Steve Nutter, spoke with Lorraine and Jay at the end of the day.
The investigators say they're 100% sure there's nothing else here. So at 5 o'clock, they released the Freeman's house scene over to the families. So Jay and I got home probably 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, and Laura's room is right across from ours. You know your child isn't in her room where she should be. Is she freezing to death? Is she hungry? Does she have clothes? You think to yourself, how can you eat if your child's not? How can I sleep if I don't know where my child is?
After a sleepless night, the Bibles went back to the crime scene, desperately searching for more clues. Lorraine hoped the police had missed something and ventured into the still smoldering remains of the house.
You look over and you see there's something up there on that floor. You could instantly tell it was a body of a man. He had no face. No face. I called 911, told them who I was, told them I was at the Freemans, And I told him there's another body in this fire. Those experts left a body in the fire.
Before Agent Nutter and the OSBI arrived, Laureen J. and Ashley's uncle, Duane Vance, discovered more pieces of evidence in the house. Laurie's purse, her wallet, and a car insurance card belonging to a stranger. However, when they presented their findings to Nutter, they were outright rejected.
His comment was, "What the hell makes you think that that insurance verification card has anything to do with this investigation?" He just turned and walked away.
As Lorraine and G continued to sift through the wreckage, Duane chased after Agent Nutter. He informed Nutter that he identified the body found as his stepbrother Danny, Ashley's father, due to a metal plate in his skull. This revelation troubled Nutter, who was convinced that Danny had killed his wife Kathy and kidnapped the girls. However, Duane had another theory, one his stepbrother had shared with him just a week before the fire.
He said, "If anything ever happens to me, you look at the sheriff's department." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he looked at me in the eye. He says, "I'm telling you, if I get killed, you look at the sheriff's department."
Duane went on to explain that a year ago, a deputy had killed Danny's son, Shane, during an altercation. Since then, tensions had risen between the Freemans and the sheriff's department. Although Nutter was skeptical, he agreed to look into the sheriff and his deputies.
We did investigate the possible involvement of members of the sheriff's department. We administered lie detector tests. They passed those tests indicating that they had never been involved with that incident.
This development had serious consequences. With Danny's body found and the sheriff's department cleared of suspicion, attention turned to the least expected suspects, the girls themselves.
The narrative with the authorities switched the next day. Now all of a sudden, instead of Danny done it, and he's got the girls abducted, now the authorities are saying the girls did this.
Because they were now considered suspects, no Amber Alert was issued for Laura and Ashley. Nutter informed the Bibles that he had entered their names into the National Missing Person Database. Doubting his trustworthiness, Laureen decided to go to the station to verify the information herself.
One of the police department guys that I know, he said, "Well, I can just pull it up right now." And he looked and he said, "Laureen, those girls are not on here."
Even though everyone in town knew the girls weren't responsible for the fire, Nutter and the OSBI stuck to their theory.
I heard Laura and Ashley did it and they took off, and I knew that one for sure was not true. There's no way Laura would have ever stayed away from her mama, you know? I'm a very open-minded person, but that was really far-fetched for me.
Left to their own devices, Laureen and Jay had no choice but to take matters into their own hands. Joined by family members, they combed the county for clues and created their own missing posters.
They can say what they want. There was nobody looking for the girls but my family.
We just couldn't sit still and do nothing. We made some posters that could go on the back of semis. Laureen and I drove hundreds of thousands of miles, putting their faces on every window that we could put them on.
A whole year passed with no progress. As Christmas approached, Lorraine prepared for the Bible's first holiday without their daughter.
Laura loved Christmas. Laura was always the one that put up our tree.
The first Christmas without her was hard. My aunt and uncle would not take the tree down.
We decided we were going to leave the tree up till Laura come home, because in your mind, she's coming home.
During the following year, hopeless, and around the Bibles. But Lorraine couldn't give up on Laura and Ashley. She was convinced they were still alive somewhere.
Your child has disappeared off the face of the earth. Most people, they say, how do you get the courage to continue, go on? It's because I don't want to be a parent and not know where my child is.
Around that time, several rumors emerged about Ashley's father, Danny. It was said that he was trying to raise a large sum of money to sue the sheriff and the deputy responsible for his son's death. To fund this, he had started selling drugs and growing marijuana a few months before the fire.
The rumors was that Danny owed a drug debt, but didn't pay the money to the people that he was supposed to, so they had called collecting the money.
But Nutter and the OSBI thought nothing of it.
If you wanted to consider that it was drug-related and nothing fits correctly, the very last thing that the people who committed the murder would want to do would be abduct the children.
Lorraine couldn't care less about Nutter's opinion. Instead, she sought out someone with connections at the top of the criminal world. By meeting this person, she bypassed the local addicts and dealers and went straight to the man in charge.
He said that we needed to go look over in the Miami area at the Mexican cartel. And I'm a mom and I want to find my child and I will do whatever it takes to find her.
Lorraine decided, against her husband's and family's wishes, that she would meet with the cartel. Jay's mother tried to convince her to reconsider, arguing that risking her own life wouldn't bring Laura back.
He's like, what if they shoot you? And I said, well, if they start shooting at me, I must be close.
In a dark Miami alley, Lorraine parked her pickup truck at the meeting spot. She waited for hours until the man arrived, got out of his vehicle, and then she cautiously approached him.
He said, how do you know I'm not packing? I said, how do you know I'm not packing? And at that point, he said, was you not scared to talk to me? And I said, nope. I need to know if the girls were taken and if Danny was killed because he owed you money. And he said, two things, ma'am. I don't kill women and I don't kill children. I believed him 100%.
Back to square one, the Bibles continued to chase down every lead until a bittersweet revelation surfaced. 12 off-the-record informants suggested that the girls might still be alive, but they were in dire conditions.
We were told that there were pictures of the girls bound and gagged, that they were being held against their will and other things.
Rumor had it there was pictures of them and this was done to them. You don't really focus on that part because if you do, then you'll stop.
After the press exposed that Polaroid pictures of the girls were circulating, an overwhelming number of tips began pouring in, a situation that greatly annoyed Nutter and the OSBI.
We started receiving leads and tips. I would be notified that the girls had been seen in New Mexico and in Florida the same day.
But there was no way around it. Lorraine and Jay had to check all of them.
I searched 6 states, and I probably put on 200,000 miles on my vehicle.
This continued through much of the early 2000s, with Lorraine and Jay traveling constantly while Agent Nutter sifted through the hundreds of tips his team received each week. Eventually, an unrelated suspect emerged from Polanski's death row unit in Livingston, Texas, notorious serial killer Tommy Lynn Sells.
Sells is connected to more than 12 murders. His transient lifestyle helped him evade law enforcement for almost 15 years, leaving a trail of victims across the country.
Eventually, the OSBI said, hey, we've got this person that's in prison, and he's saying he did it. He's stating, I killed Danny and Kathy, and I took the girls.
He seemed to know a lot about the case, and even offered to lead Nutter to the bodies of Lauria and Ashley. Though Nutter was skeptical of the inmate, after 5 years of no progress, they had nothing to lose.
There was one bone found at the site, and they called a doctor out to the site to look at it, and he identified it as animal.
I went to the Bible family and told them, Tommy Sells, he played games with us, he didn't do it.
Before Agent Nutter was officially removed from the case, his final move was to pursue another serial killer, Oklahoma native Jeremy Jones.
Look at that, for a young girl. Yeah, they ain't pretty when they come.
Never did I think Jeremy Jones did it. There would have been a group of people that had to take those girls off that property.
Lorraine was right. Jones's confession turned out to be false, and after this event and Nutter's withdrawal from the case, no new information came to light. The case went completely cold.
After the Jeremy Jones, you're waiting for the next tip, the next time somebody says something, then it gets real quiet again.
In December 2009, as Laura's Christmas tree stood heavy with the hundreds of cards and charms Lorraine had received since her disappearance, the tree came crashing down.
After 8, 9, 10 years, the tree was so heavy that it fell over and broke. At that point, I couldn't put up a tree because Laura was always the one that put up our tree.
After all this time, the family had to face the harsh reality.
It was a long time before I was really to a point to accept the fact that they probably were not alive anymore. Sorry. Sometimes it just comes out of nowhere.
7 years later, a new sheriff took office in Craig County. While he and his staff were sorting through old evidence crates, they discovered an unmarked box filled with documents from late 1999, just days after the girls' disappearance.
This week, Craig County Sheriff Heath Winfrey revealed that he recently came across new notes and documents set aside and forgotten about by the previous sheriff's administration. New hope for answers when it comes to what happened to Lauria and Ashley and where they are now.
Tammy Ferrari, a new OSBI agent, was assigned to reopen the case and sift through the box of evidence.
When I started reading through that case file, there was a talk about an insurance card that was located at the scene.
The insurance card, one of the first pieces of evidence found by the families, had been lost while being transferred between the FBI and the old sheriff's office. By tracking down its owner, the police confirmed that the Polaroids were authentic. The owner, who was the ex-girlfriend of David Pennington, one of the 3 men who distributed them, had seen the photos firsthand.
So we start looking at the 3 of them. We find out that Phil Welch is already deceased. David Pennington is deceased. But Ronnie Busick, we found out that he was still alive. People told us that he was pure evil, that he was the devil. There was people that were just terrified of him.
Ronnie Busick and his crew were involved in a drug ring unrelated to the cartel and were known to be extremely dangerous. Lorene suspected that the 12 people rumored to have seen the Polaroids were likely too terrified of him to come forward. With only one witness, Rory knew there was no way to convince a judge to issue a warrant. In a final attempt, Lorene created a Facebook page and made a new appearance on TV. Once again, Lisa Broderick, Laura's cousin, joined her in the campaign.
If you could talk to any of those 12 people right now who might have any information, what do you want to say to them?
That's what we've heard over the years, is everybody's afraid of these men, and we understand, we do. But we would just ask for you to look at your own children and look at your own grandchildren. And if you know anything, please just tell us. Please help us to find them and bring them home. That's all we want. We just want our girls back.
Miraculously, all 12 witnesses, mostly ex-girlfriends and relatives of the 3 men, came forward.
Possibly alive for days after they were kidnapped, more than half of the witnesses remember seeing Polaroid photos of the girls tied up, bound and gagged.
Bound and gagged on the day he was set to be released from his Kansas jail, Ferrari waited outside with an arrest warrant from Oklahoma. As the OSBI interviewed him, he eventually disclosed what happened, though he was careful not to incriminate himself.
Did you take the Polaroid?
No.
Who took them, Ronnie?
I don't know. I don't have food.
Are you afraid to admit your part in it? Huh? Are you afraid to admit what you've done?
Instead, he shifted all the blame to his deceased accomplices, Welch and Pennington. According to him, they had come to collect a drug debt, but when Danny resisted, the situation rapidly escalated.
Danny is ultimately shot during this, and then Kathy is shot. The girls end up escaping out of another door and run to the back of the house, and they're hiding. Once the suspects see them, the suspects ended up catching them. They were taken to Phil Welch's house in Pitcher, Oklahoma, and ended up being kept there for 2 weeks, where they were tortured, they were drugged, and then ultimately killed and disposed of.
As a last resort, Music offered to reveal the girls' location in exchange for a plea deal. The authorities would drop the murder, kidnapping, and arson charges in return for a guilty plea to accessory to murder and a reduced sentence. The Bibles agreed, and along with the OSBI, they searched the abandoned mine that Music had indicated.
We just really had hoped that there would be something there, and there just wasn't.
Lorene was devastated. Music claimed that Pennington or Welch must have moved the girls to another location, and somehow the judge accepted this as part of his plea deal. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison and 5 years of probation. On May 19, 2023, Music was released for good behavior, having served only 38 months. At his release hearing, Lorene gave a powerful victim impact statement, while Music sat on the other side of the courtroom, avoiding her gaze.
You're telling people that you killed my daughter. Look me in the eye.
I think having part of the truth kind of helps, but we still don't have that closure.
Even though they know the truth, the Bibles still hold on to the hope of one day seeing Laura again.
She's greatly missed, but she's not forgotten.
Early on, you hoped that the girls would be found alive. Do I hope when you see other people coming home after years? Yes. You want that for your child.
But for Lauria, the fight is still ongoing. Last year, she worked with her representative to introduce Lauria and Ashley's Law to Congress. This law mandates that offenders convicted as accessories to murder must serve 85% of their prison sentence before becoming eligible for parole. Approved on June 6, 2023, the law prevents others from using the same legal loophole that music exploited. Despite years of frustration, anger, and grief, Lauria is now focused on honoring the girls' legacy. She established a scholarship fund in their names, hoping to help other children from the community achieve their dreams. Lauria believes this is how the girls should be remembered, not just for the tragic circumstances of their deaths, but for the positive impact their memory continues to inspire.
I think the details of what they may have gone through can be very overwhelming. You can get very fixated on that.
But that's not who she was. She was more than just a girl that was abducted, murdered, tortured. She was more than that.
Laura, she had plans to go to cosmetology school. I remember that. I can see her being happily content, being married in an old farmhouse with some kids running around. And Ashley, I think, Ashley loved to hunt. I can just see her taking her own daughter for the first time. I think they would want you to see them not as victims. I think everyone needs to see them as, your own daughter, your own sister. And they had dreams, just like everyone else.
Thank you for joining us in this deeply moving story. Despite enduring years of heartache and struggle, Lauria's tireless fight for justice and her dedication to honoring Lauria and Ashley's memory stand as a testament to the power of perseverance and love. Through her efforts, Lauria and Ashley's Law now helps ensure that justice is served more fairly, and their legacy lives on through a scholarship fund that supports the dreams of other children. If you found this story as compelling and inspiring as we did, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories that shine a light on resilience and hope. And remember, sometimes the greatest impact comes from the fight for what's right, even in the face of unimaginable loss. Until next time, stay safe and keep seeking justice.